Happy Wednesday, my friends. Today, the very first episode of Warhammer Plus's new animation, Kill Lupercal, just dropped. This has been a highly anticipated animation because of its subject matter, Titan warfare. Now, we've gotten similar things from the studio like Broken Lance, the night show that aired not too long ago. But Titans, the god machines of the Omnissiah, are the pinnacle of mechanized warfare, so I'm excited to see how it plays out. But I'm HoodGuard, and this is the review for the first episode of Kill Lupercal. Let's get into it.
The Emperor's light is my torch! Death to the enemy! We shall be the end of you! Feel the might of the Legio! For the Emperor!
The ending stages of the Siege of Terra were a hellish nightmare for all of the forces on the Imperial side involved. By the time the Imperial Palace itself was threatened, there were only really 3 depleted legions defending it, and millions of conscripts and Imperial army soldiers had already been killed. So in an effort to give the Emperor and his sons more time, the Titan Legios decided to march out en masse. All across the thousands of miles long battlefield that made up the Siege of Terra, Titan Legios of all pattern and size marched out to meet the traitors. And that is where episode 1 of Kill Lupercal starts off. This show is going to follow the Princeps Orla Gymnon, the commander of the warlord titan Aurora Ferrum of the Legio Gryphonicus. When this episode starts, she's being told by her Moderati and the attendant tech priest that the war machine is only up to 66% operational efficacy. But at this point, they've run out of time and cannot effect any more repairs. They have to march out in order to defend the palace. The Titan crew makes their way to the engine that is surrounded on all sides by chanting, praying tech priests. At this point, you get to see the majesty of the Titans. They are the god machines. They are battlefield-breaking engines of war. It also makes you see the futility of the siege itself. Even with machines like this on your side, you can still be losing. The command crew then enters the cockpit, the head of the Titan, and begins preparations for war. And this is one of the things I really wanted to see in this animation, the small technical details of Titan warfare. How do you prepare for something like this? We even get to see how a Princeps communes with the machine spirit of their engine. This is the most dangerous and complicated part of driving a Titan, being able to commune with its machine spirit and command it, bending it to your will. We're taken to what I can only assume is the mindscape of the Princeps as she talks to the machine spirit of Aurora Ferrum. A very cool scene, but I would have liked to see some type of representation of the Titan in that mindscape as well. I'm thinking something like the mindscapes in the last episode of the Animatrix, Matriculated. A kind of residual self-image and a conglomeration of all the ancestors of this Titan made into one form. But that's just me being nitpicky. As Terra's battlefields pick up in intensity, Aurora Ferrum finally strides out. And almost immediately they're attacked by very audacious Sons of Horus traitor marines. They may have the advantage when it comes to infantry warfare, but going up against something like Aurora Ferrum is just a death sentence. The Princeps brings the macro Gatling blaster to bear and shreds the traitor 16th. Shoulder-mounted rockets that can't even get through void shields are nothing compared to bullets twice the height of a space marine. As they mop up the traitor infantry, they begin wondering where are all of the other Titans. Killing traitors is all well and good, but you shouldn't be wasting Titan ammunition on infantry. But this blindness isn't really the Titan's fault. At this point in the war, scrap code has infested all of Terra's noosphere, and the warp continues to change physically the battlefield itself. But finally, some of this communications noise clears, and they're able to get a lock on 9 Legio Mortis engines. These are the main traitor Titan engines, and they are the nemesis of Legio Gryphonicus. Princeps Gymnon calls on the other 3 Titans walking with them to form up on her as they prepare to charge this maniple. But seemingly out of nowhere, a hostile contact appears on their port side, and the command crew must begin to prepare for an ambush. That was the end of episode 1, and we'll have to see what happens in episode 2 next week on Wednesday. But there was a lot that went on in that episode, so let's talk about my thoughts and speculations. First and foremost, I'm glad they decided to focus on Legio Gryphonicus rather than Legio Ignatum, which is mentioned all the time in the Siege of Terra and Horus Heresy series. Though I absolutely wouldn't be mad if they made some type of cameo appearance, along with maybe Legio Solaria. But I'm definitely getting ahead of myself here and setting expectations way too high. The biggest question that remains at the end of this episode is what is happening with this ambush? Who is coming from their port side? Now, if you have been or are able to watch the episode, you know right before this point, the Princeps of Aurora Ferrum is trying to gauge where her allies are around her. Titans are gigantic, and you can see them from miles around, but they still need to be able to coordinate with each other. And so right before this ambush happens on her port side, she identifies one of the other engines that are in her mana pool as being on the port side. And as she voxes the other machines to gauge where they are, she gets radio silence. All this means to me is that there is some traitor in Legio Gryphonicus, and they are about to be ambushed by the very people that they're supposed to be fighting alongside. Legio Mortis is going to be the very least of your worries when the Titan behind you starts shooting you in the back. But it also could be something completely different concerning the warp. Like I mentioned earlier, the veil between the warp and reality on Terra was very thin. People, vehicles, buildings, even entire ships were being teleported all across Terra and its surrounding orbit. So perhaps Legio Mortis is able to take advantage of this and use the warp to teleport into an advantageous spot to ambush Legio Gryphonicus. Besides the ending there, this first episode really did give us a well-rounded intro into this Titan world. I wasn't left with too many other questions in this episode besides when is a Titan going to fight another Titan? I think to me the cinematography and the pacing of those fights are what's going to make them, and I'm very eager to see them. But thank you all always for watching. Let me know if you have any questions or critiques of the episode in the comments below. Make sure to leave a like, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you all in the next one.